My name is Pam Roecker, and what inspires me is great leadership.
All right, and welcome to the Lantern Podcast, a show out of Good Cause Productions that is produced and promoted by students at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay. I'm your host, Ryan Martin, and I have a fantastic guest for you today. She's the Dean of Athletics at Regis College in Weston, Massachusetts, as well as a women's basketball color analyst for a number of different Division I basketball conferences, including the Big East. She graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay with a degree in communications, where she was an absolute star on both the court and in the classroom, and she has since been inducted into the UWGB Athletics Hall of Fame. Please welcome Pam Roecker.
Great leadership looks like to me, Ryan, and it could be at any level. So if it's a coach coaching a middle school team, obviously to the collegiate level, could be a CEO of a company, could be a college administrator. I'm looking for leaders, and I'm inspired by leaders that have good authenticity, that have the ability to inspire and motivate folks with their clear vision of where the company or organization or team is trying to get to. They can get them on board. They are trustworthy. They can give good feedback. They are good communicators. They are unselfish, right. And they model the behavior they want to see.
Excellent. And so give me some examples, maybe people from your life that you think of when you think about those great leaders.
The first one that comes to mind is the former basketball coach, and we lost her, but it's Pat Summitt, the University of Tennessee. I think that what she did for women's basketball, the type of leader she was, a confident woman back in the 80s and 90s. I really think when somebody who came from a coaching background, I think a lot of my friends feel the same way about Pat Summitt, kind of front and center in terms of one of the first leaders that stands out.
So how did you first become exposed to Pat?
Just through coaching, through being a student athlete, following her Tennessee Lady Vols teams, coaching at the collegiate level. I coached for 8 years as a head coach, and just following her team, following them at the Final Four, and really reading her books, her motivational books. And I really thought she was very, very solid.
Okay. So we got to talk about basketball.
All right, fair enough.
So this has obviously been a really, really influential part of your life for a long time. I mentioned during the intro that you played for UW Green Bay. I mentioned that you were that you're in the Athletics Hall of Fame here at UW Green Bay. So, but what I actually don't know much about, and I bet a lot of our listeners don't know much about, is like when did basketball enter your life? When did this become a thing that you knew you cared about?
Yeah, really early, probably 7th grade, YMCA basketball camp, Madison, Wisconsin. Okay. That carried through to my high school years at Madison La Follette High School. I had a very good head coaching team, Bernie and Gene Wiggins. We had a great boys basketball coach, Pete Olson. And I really identified very early, maybe as early as my freshman year of high school, that coaching was of great interest to me. A lot of my friends thought I wanted to be a PE teacher, a physical education teacher, and I didn't. I didn't want to coach a variety of sports with kids that didn't want to be there. I wanted to zero in and really coach basketball, and I was pretty laser focused on that all the way through my collegiate years.
So that's really interesting, right? Because you've identified coaching even more so than it sounds like than playing, right? I mean, that became really the focus.
Well, playing was really important too, don't get me wrong, but I did have a great professor here at UW Green Bay named Dr. Donald Yarmouth. Okay. And he was really instrumental in that. That was before there was such a thing as the master's of or the even undergraduate degree in sports administration. So what I did was I majored in communication, I did a minor in business, and all of my projects, everything I did that was theme oriented was around sports, marketing of the Green Bay Phoenix athletic department, etc.
I love it. Okay, so I want to come back to that. We're going to put a pin in that because I still want to hear more about the basketball journey, but I think that's great advice that you have for students, or there's some great advice there that I want to talk about. So basketball journey, Did you have family who played? Did you have family who supported that goal for you?
Yeah, my family was great. They would drive up 2.5 hours from Madison, almost every home game. My mom and dad, and then I had a special ed sister named Kim that was a big fan of the Phoenix. She loved Carol Hammerly. She loved all the girls on the team that I played with. They were super supportive, not athletic in terms of their own right. I did have a brother who's deceased, but he was a great athlete as a youngster. He played baseball. He was a great golfer for his whole lifetime, but everybody was really supportive of it. But the basketball was kind of an outlier piece.
Really? Interesting. So tell me about your decision to come to UW Green Bay, right? You obviously at that point you're playing pretty well, right? Getting Division I opportunities. So when did you become aware of GB and what brought you here?
Yeah, 1979, and it was pre-Division I.
Oh,
so Green Bay at the time was AIAW Division II. Okay. So we're going back in the dark ages, 1979. My high school career actually ended with a season-ending injury, an ankle sprain.
Oh, no.
But I did make the Madison All-City team.
Okay.
A friend of Carol Hammerly, sent her that article that identified me as one of the 5 best players in Madison. She reached out to me. Unbeknownst to Carol, I was already committed to UW Whitewater. I was going to play tennis and basketball there. Carol reached out. She invited me to a tryout. My dad drove me up. I basically earned a scholarship that day. That's back when, tryouts were allowed. And then I researched the communication program. I found out UWGB had a radio station and a communications major. And obviously the rest is history. It was a great sized school. It was really the perfect fit for me. And I'm forever thankful that Carol found out and reached out and recruited me.
Yeah. So let's talk about the communication piece, because I'm really, really interested in something you just said. So sounds like, first of all, you already knew this was something you wanted to study. Like you had made that decision already. Is that right? No
doubt. Yep. The communication, I like the whole idea of marketing. And then as I mentioned, the professor that really helped me, sports management was the major I was trying to think of. This was pre-sports management time, but I was able to kind of morph that and make that work.
That's what I think is so interesting, is that, and really good advice for a lot of students out there, is that you can, within your major, within your minor, you can craft something that is kind of hyper-specific to your interests.
No doubt, and that's one of the greatest things about UWGB, and I think it's still to this day, where you've got some flexibility in terms of tailoring a major to a career interest that you really have.
Absolutely. And so this is something that, like, by doing the communication piece, the business piece, but then also what I liked about your example before is all of these, basically building it into all the different assignments, right? It's saying like, it's not just what I'm studying overall, but I'm going to build sports into the assignments I do.
To the fabric of the major, no doubt. Yeah. It was great.
So, one of the questions that I'm always curious about, and when you were talking about leadership, is one type of leader is, of course, mentors, right? Yep. People that help you out along the way. Who were some of those mentors for you? Who were some of the people you identified?
Well, my high school coaches, as I mentioned, Bernie and Gene Wiggins, were great. They really started things off for me. They knew my interest was at a different level, a little more serious maybe than some of my high school teammates. Carol Hammerly here, she was a huge influence. Everything from the coaching background, just to be supportive. She was somebody who helped me when I first saw that there was such a thing as an academic All-American. She kind of advised me that that's something that's a possibility. And then I set my eyes on that goal and was able to achieve that at this university. And I think those mentors, and honestly, Ed Widener, it sounds funny to think that the chancellor could have been somebody, but he was one of my references when I graduated college here. He was a huge supporter of women's basketball. He was a very, very big advocate for us and a personal connection for me. And then I had a senior mentor, Irene Kiefer. She coordinated my senior project where I did the first ever media guide for women's basketball. So that was my senior project, which was really interesting.
All right. So tell me about that. Like when you describe a media guide for me and what it looked like.
Well, what a media guide is a little different than a game program. So a little more in-depth bios, a little more research in terms of the history of the program. I literally designed it at my house in Madison, Wisconsin. It was about a 5x7 booklet. It was not as extensive as booklets went. Some of them went to 50 and 100 pages as years went on. But this was more of an in-house production. But it did take that next step for women's basketball, and that was in 1982 to 83.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a really another great example of being able to not just build something specific to your interest, but something that had like a demonstrable value outside of the classroom, right? And
it was outstanding.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so what happens after you graduate? You finish up. Where do you head next? Well,
another great story. I think I had a pretty good career here. I felt pretty good. Applied for some coaching jobs and did not get them. So knowing again that I had an interest in collegiate athletics, I was able to apply for an internship at UW-Madison. I lived at home and I worked for the women's athletic director at the time. I did game day promotions for women's basketball and volleyball. I ran, they had a huge fundraiser called the Badger Buggy. We raffled off a car. So I had a sales force of female athletes that would sell raffle tickets through Camp Randall Stadium. But I got exposed to Division I athletics. And from there, my coaching career took off.
Okay. So what was that first coaching job after?
It was here. Okay. It was back home, back at UW Green Bay. I actually worked in the admissions office, and I volunteered for Carol Hammerly and coached. Did that for a year, and then I ended up at UMass Amherst, which was a Division I school in Western Mass, and that would have been in 1985-86.
Okay. So I'm curious, where did the women play back then?
The Phoenix Sports Center.
Did they?
Yeah, we sure did.
Okay, excellent.
No such thing as the Crest Center back then.
I was going to say, so the Crest Center is about 20 years old, I think, but so this would have been a little bit before that.
Yeah.
But, okay, excellent. Okay, so went out to UMass and worked as a coach out there. Tell me about the journey after that, because I know now you're dean of athletics.
I am.
How did you progress through that?
Well, it's a long story, but I'll try to make it a little more concise. So coaching was 3 years at UMass Amherst. Then I had a chance to move to the Big East. I was at Seton Hall University as an assistant for 2 years. Then in 1990, I became one of the youngest head coaches in the country. I was head women's basketball coach at Wagner College in Staten Island, New York. And I was also the assistant athletic director, which was a formative piece as it added value to my resume, having that administrative experience. So after Wagner, I took the head coaching job at Loyola University, Chicago. And for a variety of reasons, things didn't work out. So I only stayed there 1 year. But that really opened up the administrative piece for me on a more full-time basis. So I was able to go back to Wagner College, spent time as the associate AD and compliance coordinator. I did that for 4 years. Then my journey into Division III athletics started. So I went in 2003, I became the athletic director at Emmanuel College in Boston and stayed there for 12 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there's a couple of things that I'm really intrigued by through this. One is just the degree to which you've and I know this comes with the territory when you're a coach is you change jobs a lot, right? So that to me, for a lot of our students, honestly, even for me, can be kind of scary, right? I mean, the changing those things. How was that for you, or how did you handle some of the fear?
Well, I don't really remember any fear. It was a lot of excitement, right? I think part of it is that competitive piece. So you're always striving. One of the things in athletics, and one of the things I would encourage our students at UWGB to think about is that, embrace that competitiveness. So as you continue to move up the ladder, you have to be willing to make the moves, whether it's geographic or whether it's just changing venues in the same city. So I think there's some innate confidence that has to come from that. But as you make those moves, and hopefully they are rungs up the ladder, it's something that's just part of that, like you mentioned, the coaching world, right? And it's hard it can be hard on families, it can be hard on relationships, but that is part of the business. But I do think embracing that competitive fire and channeling that into a career, whether it's athletics or whether it's other types of career, that's kind of a side piece of advice I would also give the students that might be listening.
Yeah. Talk more about that side piece of advice.
Yeah, I think the idea of being a bit of a risk taker, and I've shown that throughout my career. So I have a career. I'm in my 24th year broadcasting women's basketball, and that's nothing I ever imagined doing. But from the minute I started, I fell in love with it. So it was an opportunity to stay in the game, to analyze the game, get in the coaches' heads, interview coaches without kind of the heartache of a tough defeat, right? So you're calling a game, you're getting invested in that way. I take a lot of pride in how I prepare for those games, but it's not the same as when you have that heartbreak of defeat. It's not the same as having the thrill of victory.
Right.
But I think that's a part of that piece. But I think I didn't have much training for that. Kind of learned on the job. I had the benefit of some great play-by-play men and women who gave me great advice. I ended up teaching at Emmanuel College. They asked me, do you want to teach Introduction to Sport Management? I said yes, and the next thing I knew, I was almost in the classroom. So there was, I didn't even do a practice class. So I think that idea of being a risk taker, putting yourself out there, taking a challenge. I've emceed dinners here. I've emceed the recent Hall of Fame induction for athletics. And that's nothing you can really prepare for, but it was something I wanted to try. I wanted to take the challenge and put myself out there. So I would also encourage our students to do that. Get out of your comfort zone. Try something new. Stretch your boundaries a little bit. And I think your career can really maybe blossom and explode.
Because that's one of the things. The other thing I was thinking about as you were talking is like you have developed both through your time at UWGB as a student, but also throughout your career, a pretty broad skill set, right? That's allowed you to try lots and lots of different things and do a lot of different things really successfully, right? So, you're a coach at first, but then you start getting the administrative experience, sort of learning on the job. You start doing the color analysis, learning on the job. But obviously, learning on the job, but you've got some natural skills that are leading into that. Is that a fair breakdown? I
think it is. And I think one of the biggest things, and I thank my parents for that, is kind of that innate confidence, that ability. I also think, we'll talk about that in a little bit. I think in terms of the networking piece, I think that's a strong skill set of mine, that ability to make connections, meet people, put yourself in a position where you might be discovered for a new opportunity. How do you present yourself? I think that's probably one of the unnamed skill sets coming out of college, that ability to public speak concisely, speak clearly, really be a good communicator.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that. I'm going to make sure people hear that part because it is so critical for our students, and I think it's one of the things that maybe a lot of students. I certainly didn't understand that when I was an undergrad. That what a lot of our students don't necessarily get is the importance of being able to connect with people, the importance to being able to network, and to foster those relationships. I think that's especially true. It's always been true, but I think it's especially true now. And so, super important that students are getting that message.
No, I agree. I mean, I agree 100%. And little things like, introducing yourself, eye contact, speaking clearly. These are all things that I think, I just spoke to our UWGB athletes a couple weeks ago in terms of the importance of personal branding. Like, who are you? Who are you when nobody's watching? What type of work are you handing into a faculty member? How are you presenting yourself? Are you on time? Are you answering questions in the classroom? Are you paying attention, or are you laying on your desk? Are you, playing on your phone? Those type of things matter. A great networking nugget that I picked up. I wish it was an original thought. It's not. But networking, they used to talk about, and you'll remember this, it's who you know. I've changed it, or I've stolen this concept from somebody. It's not who you know. It's who knows you and what do they think about you?
Yes.
What kind of impression have you made on somebody? And I think for our students that are in the audience, that idea of really thinking that you can set your mapping right now in terms of building that brand, knowing how to dress appropriately, knowing how to behave in the classroom, knowing, that your work matters when a faculty member gets that.
So I've got two sons, a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old. The 14-year-old is a diehard basketball fan and player, so he'll be excited when I tell him we met.
Awesome.
But no, that is the message that I keep trying to give to them is that like the branding starts now.
Yes.
Like your personal brand starts now, and who people's perceptions of you really do matter. And we've got to, I mean, you'll appreciate this, I think, as a player, like body language on the court and what that signals to coaches, what it signals to the other team, what it signals to the fans, scouts, all of that.
No doubt.
That stuff matters. It really matters. And it's I think that same thing is true, not just on the court.
If I can expand that too,
Please.
so when I talk to our student athletes here, we talked about your brand as a student. I think you have a personal brand as well, right? So social media, a big key. That comes into play in terms of who are you having on your posts? What time is the post? Or do you have a red cup in the post? Like, so those things matter. I know it's a cliche, but it does matter to employers, and they are going to vet that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. It is time for our 3 questions.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I hope so.
First question is, who is it you hope you are inspiring?
Well, our students today, right? The college students that I work with. So you mentioned I'm Dean of Athletics at Regis College. I hope our students, our student athletes, and really my staff, our coaches, I hope that I've been modeled the behavior they want to see, can inspire some confidence in them, and can inspire them maybe to strive a little higher and strive to be the best they can be in whatever they choose to do.
Love that. Love that. Okay. Question number 2 is a book, a movie, a TV show, something that really inspired you or changed your life that you want to share with other people.
2 books. Okay. 2 books. One really early. One was How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. Excellent. I think it was first printed in 1936. I discovered it on the bookshelf. My dad had it, but I think that was a big testament in terms of the networking piece. The importance of smiling, eye contact, learning somebody's name, engaging somebody from a personality standpoint that you're listening. I thought that was critical. Another book, a little more modern, called Games Mother Never Taught You. It's a book about corporate gamesmanship for women, but I took a few more lessons out of that in terms of having a seat at the table, how women approach things differently than men approach things in the workplace. I thought it was very interesting.
Excellent. Very good. And then last one is, there's been a lot of advice during this one, which I love. What's one piece of advice that you would want to give someone who hasn't yet found their way? Yeah,
I think we've really touched on it. I think it's that confidence piece. I think it really comes down to really striving to do the best you can at anything you take on, whether that's, as a family member, as a student, in the workplace. You never know who's watching. Like we said before, it's not who you know, it's who knows you and what do they think about you. You never know what connection you can make. And I think you should also put your dreams out there. So I think a lot of times students don't talk to faculty members in terms of what their aspirations are. You never know who that faculty member might know. So I think it's having that innate confidence in yourself, and having that drive in yourself to really take those risks, be the best you can be at whatever you take on, and really setting your goals and having that vision and being willing to share it with folks. Love that.
Pam, this has been fantastic. Is there anything that I haven't asked that I should have asked?
It was great. I really appreciate the opportunity. I value my education at UW Green Bay, even though it was a long, long time ago. It's always great to come back. I love the work you're doing, and keep it up. Go Phoenix.
Yeah, thanks so much for saying that. Where can people find out more about you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn at Pam Roecker, very original. On Twitter, I think at the same handle.
Okay.
And my bio is on Regis College's website, Dean of Athletics. We did that intentionally. Think a little creatively outside the box. D3 Athletics, we believe coaches are educators too. Excellent. It's a nice, it's our brand.
Love that. Thank you so very much for being here. This has been fantastic. All right. I am here with Kennedy Punky. Kennedy, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I am good. Okay. We are at that point in the semester where things are starting to get real, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It really is.
So we are recording this. Now, people are going to be listening to this probably after the holidays, but we're recording it right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Which means that when you come back, there's like 2.5 weeks and then finals.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling?
Well, I'll just say hopefully by the time this episode airs, I hope I'm still mentally stable after finals. But I think we should be okay.
So tell me, what is it you do to like try and take care of yourself during these stressful times?
Yeah, I try to like make sure that I set like a good schedule for myself of like a good balance of like, okay, I can do homework for this amount of time, but I also like try to allow myself to have time for myself because you can't stress yourself out, like overload too much. You have to still remember to like step back a little bit. But
love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Especially the part about keeping a good schedule. I think that's a super important part of this that I think I have to believe that if we were to look at students who are successful versus students who struggle during this time, one of the critical things is keeping a good schedule.
Yeah, so, for sure. For sure.
Very good. All right. So you're going to take us home here in just a second. But before you do, let's tell people, how can they find out more about the podcast?
Yeah, we're on all social media platforms, all of them you can think of. You can also watch more of the episodes on YouTube.
Yes, exactly. So in the socials are UWGB Cause. That's UWGB CAHSS. You can also follow me. That's at Anger Professor on all of the places that you can think of. So
perfect.
On that note, Kennedy, please take us home.
Let's do it. The Lantern is brought to you by Good Cause Productions at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay. The executive producer is Ryan Martin, and the production manager is Rachel Sankey. The engineer for today's episode is Kennedy Punky, with support from LiveX. And that music you love so much was arranged by our very own Michelle McQuaid-Dewhurst. Special thanks also to our guest, Pam Roecker. If you haven't already, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Keep being amazing.